Now here's just some recent news as of right now from New York Times. U.S. sees array of new threats at Japan's nuclear plant. United States government engineers sent to help with the crisis in Japan are warning that the troubled nuclear plant there is facing a wide array of fresh threats that could persist indefinitely and that in some cases are expected to increase as a result of the very measures being taken to keep the plant stable, according to a confidential assessment prepared by the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. Among the new threats that were cited in the assessment, dated March 26, are the mounting stresses placed on the containment structures as they fill with radioactive cooling water, making them more vulnerable to rupture in one of the aftershocks rattling the site after the earthquake and tsunami of March 11th. The document also cites the possibility of explosions inside the containment structures due to the release of hydrogen and oxygen from seawater pumped into the reactors, and offers new details on how semi-molten fuel rods and salt buildup are impeding the flow of fresh water meant to cool the nuclear cores. In recent days, workers have grappled with several side effects of the emergency measures taken to keep nuclear fuel at the plant from overheating, including leaks of radioactive water at the site and radiation burns to workers who step into the water. The assessment, as well as interviews with officials similar with it, points to a panoply of complex challenges that water creates for the safety of workers and the recovery and long-term stability of the reactors. While the assessment does not speculate on the likelihood of new explosions or damage from an aftershock, either could lead to a breach of the containment structures in one or more of the crippled reactors, the last barriers that prevent a much more serious release of radiation from the nuclear core. If the fuel continues to heat and melt because of ineffective cooling, some nuclear experts say that could also leave a radioactive mess that could stay molten for an extended period. So, let's see what else we got here. The document also suggests that fragments or particles of nuclear fuel from spent fuel pools above the reactors were blown up to a mile from the units, and that pieces of highly radioactive material fell between two units and had to be bulldozed over, presumably to protect workers at the site. What else we got here? I thought they were not out of the woods, but at least at the edge of the woods, said Mr. Lochbaum, who was not involved in preparing the document. This paints a very different picture and suggests that things are a lot worse. They could still have more damage in a big way if some of these things don't work out for them. So, I'm going to have to step up here and say, yeah, I'm going to agree that it paints a very different picture if things get a lot worse. And I just think things are going to get a lot worse because, again, governments lie, corporations lie, and together they're like a marriage, and they both lie together. They're married, and they both lie. Let's see, it says the assessment provides graphic new detail on the conditions of the damaged cores in reactors 1, 2, and 3 because slumping fuel and salt from seawater that had been used as a coolant is probably blocking circulation pathways. The water flow in number 1 is severely restricted and likely blocked. Inside the core itself, there is no water level, there is likely no water level, the assessment says, adding that as a result, it is difficult to determine how much cooling is getting to the fuel. Similar problems exist in number 2 and number 3, although the blockage is probably less severe, the assessment says. So you hear words like probably, maybe, not as bad, blah blah blah. Usually always turn out to be unexpectedly. My favorite one that they always use. Things at the Japanese power plant today unexpectedly changed. The amount of radiation dumped into the ocean on top of living creatures that had nothing to do with this unexpectedly was higher than we thought. The government and the power company unexpectedly lied worse than we thought. Right. Gotta love that. So, let's see, what else is this? Suggests that the fuel pool of number 4 reactor suffered a hydrogen explosion early in the Japanese crisis and could have shed much radioactive material into the environment, what it calls a major source term release. Even the best juggler in the world can get too many balls up in the air, Mr. Lockbaum said, of the multiplicity of problems at the plant. They've got a lot of nasty things to negotiate in the future, and one missed step could make the situation much, much worse. You know what, Mr. Lockbaum? I'm going to have to agree on that. I don't think this thing is even close to being over with. And the more I see this and keep reading this stuff, the more I realize adding a thing such as a water distiller to my already supply of what I thought was all I needed for my little survival, whatever. I'm not going to chance it and say, well, no, it's not. I'm in Florida. It's not going to get here somehow. We could have the same problem here. In this country, and next year, next month, this year, whatever. What's going to happen next? All the distillers on the planet are going to be cleaned out. You're not going to be able to buy them, just like the radioactive testers and Geiger counters. I got to do stuff in advance, and this is one of those things I'm going to do in advance. So, anyways, I will talk to you guys later. Take care.